Welcome back to the Dark and Stormy Nights. This is Loki.
And this is Tyr.
And we're going to plot the next chapter. I forgot what chapter we're on.
I think we're on 12.
Okay. And in this chapter, we're gonna tell a few tales all at once, I think.
Yeah, I think it's going to get kind of interesting. We're going to jump back and kind of take in some backstory and kind of put the motive out there. Although you won't really be able to piece it all together just yet as a reader. I think it's really going to pull a lot of things together and kind of make it really interesting.
So I think we're going to tell the story of a woman named, at the time she was probably a girl named Annalise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we're going to do is we're going to have her, she's going to reminisce about how things were late or early 1800s, right?
No, we said that this is starting back in 1640.
Is she witnessing the whole thing?
I think that it's best to do it that way, where
Okay.
she witnesses the beginning. And honestly, like, you can have her talk a little bit about, like, the fairy tale that her mother tells her about where she came from or whatever, about her own origins, and then have her just witnessing the everyday of, well, this is just how things are.
So do we want to use that as, like, she knows what's going on in the courts, like her rightful place is on the court in the combine?
I think that to her, it's maybe a fairy tale that her mother tells her, but she's special because, whatever. So I think that her human mother knows a little bit about where she's from or who she is or why she needs to be careful about protecting this child, right?
Right.
And so her mother tells her this in the form of a fairy tale. She tells her who she is in the form of a fairy tale, like a bedtime story, right? And so to Annalise, she takes this to heart, although it's not untrue, and so she knows that her father was human and her mother was somebody, of importance, and that she had to be hidden. So I think that you get that little glimpse into Annalise's backstory.
But I mean, we want to tell at the time when the witch trials started that the combine was made up of 3 factions.
Right. So
and
I think
her family may have been part of one of those factions.
Exactly. So Annalise knows that she is not unlike these powerful beings. She sees that high elves are part of the ruling class at this time, at this point in history. It's not just sorcerers. It's sorcerers and witches or magic users and high fae.
Right.
And so Annalise knows from these fairy tales that she's being told about her family that while she is half human, she's also part of this ruling class, even if it has to be hidden for now. So yeah, she knows that she's special in this way. And so basically this ruling class of magic users, this combine, at the time is a more, mixed group. But then things start to change, and the witches, in their history, start to begin practicing blood magic, becomes more popular, and that means the witches as a group start to gain power.
Right.
And the sorcerers see this as a threat.
I feel like it lets them draw on the entirety of their ancestry.
Oh, that's a good one.
Like, so they're able to
They use their own blood and they pull power from the whole line.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're not just pulling from their own personal power
Right.
anymore. They find a way to draw from all of history. And so now the witches, the dichotomy change, or not the dichotomy, but the power structure changes.
Right.
Suddenly the witches are more powerful than the sorcerers.
Or they're at least gaining to where they're going. That's where it's heading.
And
So yeah, I like that too. Like the sorcerers begin to see them as a threat, but
Right.
they can't just wipe out the witches because, well, that's bad press. So, now high fae are very powerful as well, but the benefit is that there's less of them on this plane.
And they rule more on the other side of the
On the
veil.
other side. So while there are high fae that come through, truly taking them out would be a matter of a couple of assassinations.
Maybe, yeah.
Because for the most part, high fae would rule on their side. Whereas witches are an earth plane being.
Sure.
So their rise to power is a bigger threat. And so as we see, like, down the road, like, way, in the future from this point, they take out all the changelings, which means the Fae are less and less of a threat because the population just isn't there. Whereas the witches, something needs to be done about them.
So what we have is, I think, Annalise is telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's the one telling the story.
Right.
About when she was a little girl.
Right.
And her mother may or may not have been on the Combine, but that's what she believed, maybe.
Right. Well, she knows that she is the same as those that are on the Combine.
And that she was taken to witness the witch trials.
Mm-hmm.
And
or she snuck out and witnessed.
But I think that maybe she recognized somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think that first there needs to start being whispers. I think that we need to see, this is just how it is. These three magic beings are what make up the Combine, right? And there are other creatures. And maybe she's aware of them, or maybe she's not. I don't know. She's a child at this point. But I think then there needs to be fear because the humans have started whispering. The humans are gaining knowledge that they shouldn't have. And then it starts with the humans panicking, which, as we know, is never a good thing. And the funny thing is we just discussed that in the last chapter.
Right.
So I think that at that point, maybe the rumblings in the magic community start to be one of fear, where the humans are accusing people of being witches. And I think that that's what we need to see is that Annalise is kind of watching this happen, where the humans start turning on their neighbors. And some of them are probably human, and some of them are most definitely witches. And I think that what would probably be a good thing to tie it all together is that maybe she at some point recognizes one of the Combine sorcerers.
That's what I'm saying, yes.
Posing as a political figure or a religious figure.
A judge or something.
Something.
Yeah.
And
one of the witnesses.
Huh?
As one of the witnesses. She's
Maybe.
Posing as a teenage... member of the Combine is posing as a teenage girl who's claiming to have been cursed.
And Annalise can see through the illusion.
Yeah. And in reality, it's a middle-aged man.
Right.
And it's like, what?
So she sees that the Combine is feeding humans information, and all of a sudden the witch trials explode.
Right.
Okay.
And so for the next over 150 years, humans hunt and try witches and execute them. And many innocent people get...
Right.
Like there's an old joke, how many witches were killed in the Salem witch trials?
What's that?
There's an old joke, how many witches were killed in the Salem witch trials?
And it's 0?
None.
Yeah.
There's 16 innocent girls were murdered.
Right. Right, and they had those ridiculous ideas of, well, if she floats, she's
made of wood, so she's a witch. Yes, that's what they thought.
And if she sinks, either way, you're dead. But we'll know once you're dead if you were a witch or not.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Thanks, idiots. That's the biggest plague. That is the biggest plague that has faced America since its inception. Is stupidity, and we can't seem to escape it. It's more prevalent than ever.
Oh, I know. Yeah, so I mean, I think that's great. Like, she sees it, and being Fae, the illusion just doesn't work on her.
It's funny. It's almost funny watching a middle-aged man pretend to be a teenage girl to, like from her angle, and everybody else is seeing this teenage girl,
Right, and like the happy accident here is that we literally just had another Fae seeing right through an illusion of a sorcerer.
Right.
So that really works out well, like backing that right up against it,
Which, in the end, is what makes the Fae dangerous to...
Yeah, that's true, because they see right through their magic.
Right.
That's a very good point. Okay, so ideas on where you want to go from here? How much you want to focus on the trials?
So I want to tell... I think it doesn't have to be a lot, right? So she can tell the story about the Combine itself, and about how she's been taken to see these trials, and that she sees this middle-aged man pretending to be a teenage girl, and the trials don't end well. You know, of course, because innocent women, or
Does she try to speak out when she sees this man?
maybe she tries to speak out to
And
her.
her mother covers her mouth or something.
Yeah, her whoever she's with. Yeah,
And her mother silences her to keep her safe.
right.
Okay.
And then so she gets to see the next century of slaughter as the witches are hunted down. You know, and she feels maybe helpless to help them, or
And she's an adult now.
you know,
By the time it ends, 100 years have passed, and she's
maybe her family has told her to mind her own business all this time.
her
and
family has told her you need to stay hidden. You know, that
right.
you're
If
not
you expose this, you expose yourself.
right. So yeah, they tell her that she has to protect herself, that she's being, that she was given to them to be protected.
Well, by the 1800s, I think that maybe they've moved on to persecuting the Fae the High Fae.
I think that Fae have been disappearing all along.
Right.
You know, and she's just watching as the Combine disintegrates into nothing but sorcerers. So I think, yeah, that's a good plan. Like, by the end of the witch trials, by the 150 years have passed, she's an adult, and now the Combine is nothing but sorcerers.
Yeah. Today, the last Fae died. You know, the last Fae on the Combine died.
Mm-hmm.
You know, of suspicious causes.
Right.
You know, or under suspicious circumstances.
Right.
And my seat on the council has dissolved.
Right.
And so, in modern day, she is handing over these 3 mummies, if you will, of the...
Yeah, that's what we need to decide, is which witches are coming back.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think she went to Bethel to retrieve.
Okay.
You know, so she brought back what she could... Because they need the bodies, you know, to bring them back.
Okay.
So, because the witches didn't have a representation here like the poltergeist did in the reformatory. So she needed bodies to bring them back.
Okay, so she goes to Bethel, digs up 3 witches that were...
She probably tried to dig up more than that, but these are what's left.
Okay.
You know, because they tried 8 witches, and I think these are what they got.
Okay. So she couldn't take the burned ones, but she got...
They were just... There's nothing left of them, you know. So she was able to retrieve these 3 mummies.
Okay.
You know, and she brings them to the Bodak.
Okay. And these are... We had originally talked about making them Annalisters, relatives or whatever, but that's really not going to fit with the story now because we went back much further.
This predates that.
Right. So essentially these are just 3 witches who were the closest and still had remains and died within the witch trials.
Sure.
And were powerful. Because now, is this going to be different from the way that the Bodak brought back the Fae children and they were basically just puppets? We want these witches to have their powers, right?
Yeah.
So this is going to be a different kind of ritual.
Yeah, he's going to resurrect them.
Okay. Now, are they going to still be undead, or are they going to have, basically physical bodies?
It's blood magic, baby. They draw on their ancestral power.
So he's, fully bringing them back.
Well, I think it doesn't... I'm not sure he has a choice.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I think he brings them back, and that's what their power is about. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
That their power lets them draw on... You know, once they are free, they can... finish the job.
So he can't. He's going to bring them back, and they're essentially going to be brought back as the witches that they once were.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're
only a lot angrier
and a lot grosser. But I don't know. They might be able to glamour or repair their bodies or whatever.
And he's not going to have any control.
He might try to, but I'm not sure that he could, because that's the thing. The witches were almost more powerful than the sorcerers. You know.
Yeah, the ones that were practicing blood magic. Yes.
Right. So.
Okay. And back then, that's something else we talked about, was the lines weren't as diluted.
Right.
So back then, old witches that are brought back and practicing blood magic would be powerful, unlike any of the witches current day. Now, the other thing with these witches, actually, we're getting close to halftime. Did you want to take a break and come back and finish?
It's up to you. Do you need a break?
Well, it's up to you. I mean, it's your chapter that we're plotting.
No, I don't care. We can go straight through it. That's
okay. So basically, what I'm thinking is that these witches aren't just going to go straight to attacking the Combine with their magic. I think that what they're going to do is go seeking for their ancestors. Well, for their kin. You know, they're going to go locate current day witches. And maybe they're going to teach them blood magic. You know?
Yeah.
And then they're going to share their story. And that is going to cause a huge uprising.
Right.
To be told that at one point the Combine included other species and that the sorcerers did something so underhanded. You know? The other option is that the witches go straight for the Combine and just start attacking. If you don't want to share their story with the uprising and have even more ammo for their, you know, their discontent within the communities.
Yeah, it's hard to say what they do once they're raised. I think that
I think that because witches are very much like a family line kind of thing, that they would probably go looking for their people.
Yeah, I think at first that the Bodak and Annalise think they're going to have some kind of control over them, and they're surprised when they have none.
And they just kind of unleashed them and whoops.
Shit. You know, like, yeah, I think that they fully intended to control them. I think there's utter surprise when that doesn't happen.
Okay.
And maybe even more so. They are more lucid than they had ever imagined, you know? Like the fight just ended yesterday, and we're back.
Oh. Okay.
You know?
So they remember being tried and killed, and then they come back and they're like, oh, yeah, we're ready for this.
Oh, yeah. I think no time has passed to them.
Okay. So Annalise goes to pick up witch bodies. Bodak brings them back, but they have no control. Okay. And
yeah, like he pumps the life energy into him, and then they start sucking. Like he can't.
Do they weaken him?
He can't stop them from taking energy. Maybe, yeah.
We could actually even have them take out the Bodak at that point if we wanted to, but I don't know if that benefits us in any way.
Maybe just weaken him enough to where now he can't play all his tricks. You know? So
I like that. Yeah,
Lee
like
and Elliot caught up with them or something like that,
it just takes him out of the game for a little bit, you know, while he recovers or feeds on people's nightmares or whatever he does, you know.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of cool. Okay, so then do we want to have the witches like training their descendants?
I'm not sure that's quite this chapter, you know what I'm saying? So we tell that story, we bring them back, they cripple the Bodak, and maybe they start to tell their story, but I don't think we need much more than that. That might be a whole chapter right there.
And then we want to make sure that we do not reveal who Annalise really is.
No.
We just have her be, you know, so right now, basically Rowan was saying in the cafe or whatever, does it matter who's bringing them back? They're obviously an ally. And now you have Annalise's story where she goes way back. She witnessed what happened with the Combine.
Right.
She's brought these witches back, which automatically makes you say, okay, well, she must have been responsible for the ghost. She must have been responsible for the Fae children.
Sure.
So you're automatically taking this Annalise and saying, okay, she's the one who's doing this. And at this point, her reasons look wholesome.
Sure.
I guess, you know, like on the right side of history here. But ultimately, present day is going to show something different, you know, down the line.
Right.
Right now, it really looks like she is on the side of the masses.
Right.
And she's exposing the Combine for the vile acts that they've committed. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of cool. And, like, in the end, you're not going to really know who Annalise is at the end of this chapter. Other than it looks like she's responsible.
And that she's half high fae.
Right.
So, which isn't a detail you would know about her otherwise.
Right. It gives her backstory so that down the road, when you see what's happening, you go, oh, okay. You
Right,
know?
right.
Okay. And I like that you're getting the story of the Combine as well. Okay. And what did you say you wanted to have the witches start doing? In the end, you wanted them to cripple the Bodak and then start planning?
No, well, I think they're going to go right to, maybe like getting their story out. Getting their story out. Or maybe drawing their other witches to them. Maybe they have some way to call themselves together.
Okay.
So the children,
drawing out their descendants to tell their story.
So the children who aren't as powerful. Because I think, yeah.
Okay. And then all we know about Annalise is that she's really frickin' old. In part Fae, and has witnessed this history.
By this, she's 400 years old?
Right. But she's a Fae, so that's still young.
Right.
So... do we want to focus on the fact that they've lost control of the witches?
We might want to make mention of it.
Okay.
There's definitely an oops in there somewhere.
Right.
So...
okay.
she might ask the Bodak, why are you letting them get away?
Right.
And he, moans or something, and she goes, what do you mean you can't control them?
She's talking to it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to...
I thought about having an identifying mark on her that we want to go and...
On Annalise?
Yeah. She got too close to the flaming stake,
Or she has a cross burned into her or
yeah,
something?
Something, yeah.
You could do that, as a child or something.
Right. Or one of the witch's pentagrams fell. It burned, the cord burned from her neck, but the pentagram stayed intact, and she tried to pick it up.
And it's burned into her palm.
Yeah.
Kind of creepy. Kind of cool though. I was thinking a royal birthmark or something that marks her as Fae royalty.
Yeah.
And that's what she...
Or, she could have a clan tattoo that was given to her at birth,
she's unseelie, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so they're dark.
A thorn crown or something,
Actually, it was even weirder than that, as it would have probably been some kind of fish thing. Fish related. Yeah.
Interesting.
So.
Yeah, you could do anything like that. But I was just thinking that something that marks her as unseelie royalty, even though she's a half-breed, would kind of be something that she uses as her token of, look, I'm supposed to be in power.
Right.
And that same arrogance, that same I deserve to be in power because I'm royalty, could be exactly what shies the rest of the protesters away from her. We don't need a king. We're not looking for royalty.
Right.
We're looking for representation.
And that's a great parallel to where we're at now.
Right.
Right. In the real world, is that there are so many people trying to make themselves the face of our people's movements and stuff, and it's just we don't need that.
Right.
We don't want that.
No. And that's the thing, is the more you center your ruling class into one being or one group, the worse off the masses are.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah. We need to get rid of globally, they need to stop that kind of shit. No more ruling class. We all can rule together.
And that's the point, is that I think that the moment that she starts to put that, at first it's just, well, look at what they've done. And everybody's yeah, look at what they've done, and they're all joining in. And then she says, and then if she pulls out a royal, birthmark or tattoo or whatever, and and my people once ruled over you, and I should be, I'm taking my rightful place. The Combine has proven that they're not worthy, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, whoa, 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 you know?
Right. Yeah, no, that's not where we're going. Though.
Yeah. We're not just replacing one ruling class with another.
I think you misread this situation.
So, I mean, I think that that's probably, like, a good way to kind of, like, make them turn on her.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Like, they're with her all the way up until the point where she's like, it should be me who's in charge. And then they're like,
Well, that's why I think we end with the witches, like, drawing
their descendants.
Their descendants to them. And then later when this starts to come to a head, you know, maybe the witches are pounding on the force shield around the huntsman in the future chapter, and the people are chanting some kind of, you know, fight song for democracy and everything like that. And then Annalise tries to interject, and people are like, no, not that.
Yeah, I think that they're with her as long as she's amping up their anger, you know,
right.
And she's because this part of it is correct. This part of the problem is yes, they should never have done all this. Yes, these things should be exposed. They shouldn't have been buried, and we shouldn't have let them rule over us for this long. But the solution that she has is what they're not going to agree with.
Right.
So at some point they're going to break from her.
But I think she's defeated by the people in that regard.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think in the end she's still going to have to be defeated in battle.
Yes.
But I think that when she thinks that she's just going to get the easy crown by winning over the people.
She thinks that she's amassed an army.
Yeah.
But she doesn't really have them.
No. And that's going to be beautiful.
Right.
You know? And then when she's like, fuck it, I'll kill for it.
Right.
And she's stopped there by Elliot and Lee.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, that's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right. We got anything else?
No, I don't think so. I think that's pretty well set up for like going forward from there.
Cool. Contribute to the story at r/Dark and Stormy Nights. Go check us out at the Dark Stormy K1 on Twitter. We have a Dark and Stormy Nights Facebook page. We're everywhere, man. And you can get us almost anywhere you can find a podcast. And we're on YouTube. Feel free to follow us on YouTube. So, we'll see you next time.
Bye.